Every year, Mark Brown over on the Game Makers Toolkit channel hosts a game jam during the summer. He has a great channel that analyzes games and mechanics, and his content is top notch. You should go and check it out. If you haven't seen his videos, what are you doing? In the last year's game jam, I participated with a group of friends that we call the Cool Kids Gang. But during that jam, I was stuck in a car the entire ride, so it wasn't the best situation for me. This year, I planned ahead and I was home during the entire jam. And I did this year's jam with the Cool Kids Gang as well. This year's theme was called Out of Control. It was pretty interesting. We got a lot of ideas. I mainly did just art, and I don't think it's that insightful to just hear me say, oh, I drew for 14 hours and then I slept and then I drew for 10 more. I think it's a lot more interesting to see everyone's different, point of views. I interviewed and talked with a few of my teammates, and in this video I'll take a step back and let them talk. So we'll see each other again at the end of the video.
To be honest, it's like all a blur right now because, we all stayed up late. There's 6 people on the team, but we had like an additional 2 people in the call, and we're just all like throwing ideas out. And I think Fred was the one that threw out the idea of having a spaceship and like making it kind of like a DDR / kind of rage game. And then we all vibed with the idea, and we just went with it from there.
Well, everyone was in the call, but I left to eat. So y'all started discussing about the spaceship and everything, dude. And then I just came in and just like cutting through with the mic that didn't work very well, trying to get everyone's perspective. But yeah, it was actually pretty cool once we got all the stuff in and everyone was discussing the spaceship ideas. Because we went from everyone got like their own twist, but at the end it took us 2 hours kind of to get the whole thing.
Then someone pitched in that we could potentially have someone to talk to at, on top of, anxiety driven pulling in all of these keys. And then I proposed that we would make that person your girlfriend. So okay, that's what we were going to do. We were going to be controlling in this husk of this huge complicated spaceship while also maintaining social relationships with your, just keeping your girlfriend happy. That sounds like a much more human way of saying that.
Something which was very important is Roland, Boone, and me, we sat together in a private call, just talked about how to implement all the systems and how we could do it without interfering with each other's programming. Because if you're working on a project together and you're programming this in the same object, that never goes right.
Yeah, so Boone and Cake and I were the programmers. We started a Trello and I set up the GitHub. So then we first decided to get everything clear. Since previous project experiences is like if you don't have a clear vision of what you want and like clear tasks, people will start to wander. So that's why I pushed the Trello. Then we first did the Trello and decided who was gonna do what. I went from the spaceship systems, Boone started doing the UI, and Cake started doing the key input.
Now looking back to it, we didn't set up a proper game design document for how the game was going to be paced reasonably. Is the game going to take 5 minutes to complete? Is it going to take 2 minutes to complete? 10 minutes? 20 minutes? Is there going to be one level? Okay, no one really did anything. We just started working on our own things, which, looking back to it now, was our greatest weakness. We had an idea for how the game was going to be, but a lot of the parts themselves were not written yet. They were going to be written as soon as they got to that part.
Coming back, haven't touched Game Maker in 2 years, so came back, got up to speed like after 3 hours, 4 hours. We figured out a way to do the code so it didn't depend on each other, because we didn't want to have merge conflicts, because Game Maker's a bit weird with the repo. So once we figured out the systems, lay out the systems on Trello, and we knew what everyone was gonna do, we just went on our own ways. And the plan was since the code can be separated, just at the second day we start putting everything together, and that's kind of how it went.
I just went in and just started spriting, and then I wasn't very familiar with the type of animation I was doing. Like I never animated that kind of like flame before, so it was definitely challenging. But we all pushed through for like a good 12 hours. I know that Fred pushed for like 14 hours. So
I got to making sure, because you had to hold several keys, and got to making sure that base system was there. So keys tied to stats of the spaceship. That was when we realized something. The keyboard didn't work completely, mine at least. So after a bunch of testing, we found out my keyboard's simply bad. And everybody with a bad keyboard, they couldn't play the game as it was supposed to work. So that was a bit of a problem, but it was such a big part of the game, having the finger twister on your keyboard, so to speak, that we decided to just go with it and just make sure to tell them you can't play the game if your keyboard's bad. That's not our fault, that's yours. Yeah, it was fun to explain though, when the American shift came back, to tell them our game only works half the time and we could do nothing about it.
Cake worked pretty fast on his stuff, so by the first day he got the key setup, the basic key setup. So while he was sleeping, we were just integrating it. Trello went well. First half of the day afterwards, people just didn't use it because they were all just crunching in a sense for the game.
So those last 24 hours, we had to put in the entire game in as quickly as possible. I started working on, okay, so we can move a ship, we can press buttons to, get resources. That's not a game. We need some kind of like win condition, some destination. And the ship looks really good pointing up. So we're going to make it so that if you keep going up, you'll naturally reach your win condition. Yeah, it's like if you think about it, the game is sort of about like how long you can last, right? You just want to last using your resources. And if you do so, you end up winning. Perfect. And if you go quicker, you might use up more fuel. So there's no incentive to go quicker unless you're trying to reach your destination faster, which, all right, now there's an incentive to go even quicker.
Could have done a bit more because right before the jam ended, I passed out here on my desk for 2 hours. So then woke up and I'm like, yo, Boone, how's it going? He's like, yo, it's going. Glad you woke up, dude.
We got some news from the American shift that some stuff, due to some time constraints, the design was changed a bit. Instead of just flying around and wandering around and just keeping everything up, it was more focus of getting as far as you could and having less so the interfaces, different interfaces, what was the plan originally, where you had to control everything and everything would pop up in the game. So suddenly you had to repair something within another pop-up which came, stuff like that. We had to scrap it and make the game a bit more focused because we couldn't finish everything within the given time. So the game was more about getting as far as you can now, making sure all your different systems, which are basically a bunch of different health bars tied to other things of the ship. You had to keep them full, and you had to interact with your girlfriend through a social interface at the same time. So it was more focused in that.
Yeah, and then for 12 hours and 5 cups of coffee, we were able to do so. Just that.
I really liked it. I really liked the idea and how it looked with the art and how it controlled. The only thing is the win condition is the one that was missing. So I was like, I don't know if people are going to understand when they're done, right? So then I play tested it with Jesse, and he was like, yo, am I done? He's like, yeah, dude, you're done. So that was the only concern. I don't know. I really like the steering wheel. It feels good. The steering wheel and the thruster. So no, yeah, I'm pretty happy with my contributions.
Since there was no ending, I think a lot of people were disappointed with the ending because we expected some, finished, happy ending. But other than that, everything else came out like pretty perfectly, honestly. So
I actually made a decision to not have a windscreen, and the reasoning behind that was that we didn't have any gameplay. And for me, it was more important for balancing and making sure that we could get the player to the end than actually having the win. So that was on me. I had to make that call by myself. And if our major problem is that we didn't have a windscreen, that is a wonderful problem to have. If you think about it, people have problems where this game is not fun to play. I'm not going to continue after a minute. We don't have that problem. Their problem is, people got to the very end, and then they're like, I want to feel rewarded. We got people to get invested all the way to the end. That is one of the best problems to have.
I really like the setup how we had with the mouse and the keyboards. Like I saw Jesse play it, and I was just laughing through the whole time.
Yeah, I think in the end we made something pretty fun, although it's not what we originally planned. I think it captures the same energy in a way, and that's the goal in the end. You start out with an idea, with something you want to make, to convey, and then you try and follow that vision as closely as you can within the time, and while facing all the problems you will face during a game jam.
As always, scope small, because we said at the beginning we gotta scope small, but even though we said that, we still just barely managed to finish the game.
It was done in a blink of an eye, but I felt like that day felt so wholesome, I felt like I lived a week during that day because we did so much. We got to chat about a lot of things, and overall it was super positive, super, just very productive, and it kind of felt like we're in the war zone, you know what I mean? We're all fighting together, we're trudging through the mud, and then when the deadline is nearing to us, we just all buckled up, and we all as a team together, we pushed through the very end. And I know in the coding end, there were a lot of bugs. And I know that Boon was having trouble implementing some kind of blur with some other code. And it was really encouraging to see them work together to solve the problem. And even to the very end, they're fixing bugs, and they actually fixed a major bug, I think an hour or two before the deadline. So those are the moments that I will remember for sure, because everyone came in clutch.
So that was the jam. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for everyone who took their time to get interviewed and talk with me. It was really fun making this video. All of the music that you've been hearing in this video, as well as the sound effects used in the intro, has been made specifically for this game jam. Was done by Failpositive, a very talented composer and sound designer. If you're interested in checking out his stuff, link is in the description. Thank you so much, Fail, for working with us on this project. If you're interested in checking out my main project, currently titled Candlehead, you can check it out here. You can also check out my Twitter, where I post stuff regularly. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in another video. Goodbye.